So a few days ago, I got into a conversation with a lady, and we got into a little debate about the death penalty, and we also got into a little debate over police brutality and George Floyd. And she was a liberal, obviously, big liberal, but for the most part, polite. For the most part, but things got a little weird near the end of the conversation, and at first, I said some people are so evil they need killing, like mass murderers, serial killers. There needs to be capital punishment on these people. And she's like, well, why? Like, why do we need a death penalty? What's the point of that? Like, what's the point of killing them? And it's like, well, and this is what I told her. I said, well, when we live in a society and we have the sense of a community, right? We consciously, collectively agree that we are a society, we are a country, we are a people, and we pay taxes to maintain the country. We also have laws. And in order to be a member of this community, in order to be a member of this nation, country, whatever, society, we have to follow those laws. And if somebody murders a fellow member of the country, that person has lost all rights. That person has lost all rights to be a part of that country, to be a part of that community, and that person has also forfeited all of his rights to be a part of the human family. Because he has murdered a member of the human family, that person no longer has rights to be in that family. Therefore, capital punishment may be imposed on that person. It's exactly what God told Moses when he got off the ark. He said, if somebody spills blood by man's hands, shall his blood be spilt in return. This is a very, very ancient law. It's been in humanity for thousands of years. And she's like, well, I think that people should just be locked up. Like, they should just be locked up. And because I don't think we really have a say-so on what to do with this person. I don't think we have a say-so. And I think what we should do is really rely on the universe and simply allow the universe to decide what should happen with this person. And I'm like, wait, what? Am I hearing this correctly? Like, I never brought up God in this discussion. I never brought up my religion. Never brought that up, because when you're arguing with people who don't believe in your religion and you use your religion as an argument, it's just pointless, because you're throwing your pearls before swine. So I never brought up Christianity, never brought up the Bible. I just brought up, typical conservative arguments. And she's bringing up religion. She's bringing up faith. And she says, I think that we should allow the universe to decide that. It's like, what are you going to do? You're going to put the guy on an altar and be like, great, universe, tell us what to do. Tell us what should we do with this man. So I said, well, how does that look like? How does that look like allowing the universe to decide? Tell me, what's the process like? She's like, well, just allow the universe. Just allow it to decide. And it's like, okay, how does that look like? Just allow the universe to decide. I'm like, okay. No point reasoning with this person. Obviously, this person is a lunatic. Or I shouldn't say a lunatic. I would say a religious fanatic. So she starts telling me about her occupation, and she says that she works basically as a social worker, and she helps kids from dysfunctional families get their homework done, and she also talks with their parents to make sure that their parents are taking their kids to school and all that stuff. And she's like, a lot of these kids don't even have clothes. Their parents don't even buy them clothes. Parents don't buy them clothes, don't drive them to school. I'm the one taking these kids to school. I'm the one driving these kids. I'm the one buying these kids clothes. I got to go to Walmart, buy these kids clothes, blah, 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 blah. So we start talking about abortion. Because anytime you start arguing with a liberal, abortion it's almost like a law. Like abortion will come up in the discussion. So we start talking about abortion, and she says, I'm pro-choice. I'm pro-choice. And I'm like, oh, okay. You're pro-choice. Why are you pro-choice? And she said, well, because we have no authority whatsoever to tell a woman what to do with her body. And I'm like, well, it's not her body. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not her body. I said, when an embryo has feet, does this woman have 2 feet? It's her body, right? Does she have 2 feet? When the baby has a heart and the heart is beating in the womb, does the woman have 2 hearts? When the baby has eyes, does the woman have 4 eyes? Does the woman have 2 pairs of eyes? She's like, yes, she does. She has extra feet And when the baby's born, she just gets rid of those extra feet. And I'm like, right, okay. And then she said, the reason why we need abortion is because, listen, I work with the kids all the time. I work with these kids from dysfunctional families, and they have no clothes. Like, their parents don't buy them clothes. Parents don't take them to school. I'm the one having to deal with these kids. I'm the one having to deal with these children. I'm the one having to buy them clothes. I'm the one, taking them to school. I'm the one doing their homework for them. I'm the one taking care of them. Okay, because these parents weren't responsible enough. They weren't responsible when they decided to have children. So I believe we need abortion. We need abortion because I'm the one that's going to have to take care of these babies. And I'm like, well, I told her this. I said, it's nice what you're doing. I can't take that away from you. But are you then arguing that these kids that you're helping would be better off if they were simply killed in the womb? Is that what you're telling me? And she's like, yes. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. These kids would have been better off killed. And she actually said this. So I said, you do realize that you've just gone down the road of fascism. Because literally every fascist argument is these people are draining the society. They're taking money from the government's dole. They're taking taxpayer money. They're draining the system. They're leeches, and therefore they should be gotten rid of. I said, you do realize you have just literally gone down the road of fascism. You've gone down the road of fascism. And she said something like, well, yeah, I understand that, but it's still a problem in this society. It's like, you've just gone down that road. You're basically a right-wing fascist. So how could this person who boasts herself as a liberal, progressive, votes Democrat, loves the poor, within seconds then turn to a fascist argument that basically says, since these kids are poor, they would have been better off killed? How do you explain that? Is it a weird paradox? Is it a weird irony? It may seem like an irony to a lot of people, but the reality is that it's not. It's not an irony, because the way I look at it, the distance between liberalism and fascism is a hair away. It's a hair trigger away. Now, that's not to say that conservatives don't have the same danger, that conservatives aren't susceptible to the same thing, because people who are very conservative or people who are very right-wing are also a very short distance away from fascism. They are a hair trigger away from fascism. Look how long, or I really should say, look how quickly it took for Western righties to support fascist parties in Europe. Look how quickly it took people to support AfD, or to support the Swedish Democrats, or to support the Austrian Freedom Party. Look how long. It took people overnight to support these parties. Why? Because we are a hair trigger away from fascism. Whether we are conservative or whether we are liberal, we are a hair trigger away from fascism. Why is that? Why does it work this way? Jonah Goldberg, over a decade ago, wrote, well, what was it, over a decade? Almost 2 decades ago, Jonah Goldberg wrote a book called Liberal Fascism. Now, this was one of the first political books that I read. It's actually, I should say, it's the first political book that I read in its completion. And not only did I read that book completely, I read it twice because I loved it and I learned so much from it. But Jonah Goldberg wrote about how liberalism and fascism are greatly related. And he gives you a very deep history lesson. And he gets into the progressive movement. And he gets into how a lot of Democrats were racist. A lot of progressives were racist. How the eugenics movement in the first half of the 20th century was progressive, considered itself progressive and liberal. People like H.G. Wells, they were progressive, but they also believed in eugenics. And Jonah Goldberg had, there are some issues that I have with the book now. I think the issue is that it ignores the fact that Republicans in those days also believed in eugenics. But that's beside the point. That's beside the point. The point is the fact that liberalism in the past was eugenic. It was Darwinistic. And today, Progressives, liberals, have not found themselves exempt, or they have not escaped their susceptibility to turning to fascism. Same thing can be said for conservatives. Now, why is this? It's one thing and one thing only, and that is Darwinism. When you believe in evolutionism, you will fall susceptible to fascism in particular conditions. So you can consider yourself a nice liberal all you want. You're a progressive, you're a Democrat, you want to Bernie your bust. You could be that all you want. But as long as you see human beings as animals, once something doesn't go your way, or there's something about a particular people that agitates you, you will turn to fascism. You will say it would have been better off for these people just to be killed. Just like this girl that I talked to. She's driving to Walmart, buying all these kids' clothes, all this stuff. And in her mind, she thinks, we need abortion because these kids need to be killed. Yeah. And this is the danger that a lot of people are in. And how many times, especially in the years from, I would say, 2015 all the way up to 2017, how many times did we hear about some guy who was a liberal and then he became a Trump supporter? How many times did we hear about this? How many times have we heard about the liberal who turns to the right, yet they still believe in Sodom? They still believe in evolutionism. But they're right-wing, which means that they just hate immigrants. How many times did we hear of this? Quite a few times. Why has this sort of thing happened? Because people believe in evolutionism. And there are also people on the Christian side of things who do fall into this trap as well. And the reason for that is, I think is more so connected with a different factor. That factor is more so a fanatical idealism, more so than anything else. But still, there is a Darwinian element in that, in the sense that you will have Catholics who will support the Third Reich and say the Third Reich was great, even though the Third Reich was a Darwinistic tyranny. And so there is that aspect. There is that reality. But truly, 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 the distance between liberalism and fascism, or rightism and fascism, is a hair trigger away. All it takes is one shot. And that shot could be too many immigrants. That shot could be crime has gone up because of certain people are causing it. That trigger could be a number of things that could provoke people into utter violent hatred. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on that. You guys just heard some theology. God bless.